Let's begin by who is Mark?
Who is Mark? I'm a nobody, really. I'm just a firefighter,
Don't say that.
realtor. Oh man, I kind of, I was just coasting along in life a lot, until the shutdowns, and that just really put me down this path of trying to reach financial freedom. And up until then, I was just, a first responder, loved my job, just headed down that path of working towards my pension and retirement plan.
Okay, that's fantastic. And then you were always from Hawaii or
Yeah, born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. So been here for pretty much my whole life. I went away for college for 1 year on the exchange program to Cal State Northridge, but other than that, pretty much spent most of my time here. Born and raised on Oahu, and yeah, I love it.
no, that's fantastic. Okay. So what happened? What was like your whole story? You said everything got kickstarted after COVID, you said?
Yeah, I definitely, for me, it was seeing people losing their jobs, getting laid off. I don't want to get real political and everything, but people having to do things that they may not wanted to do to keep their jobs or work or, different type of things. So it just made me realize that how kind of sometimes we fall into these paths that you're kind of trapped in, like, whether your job requires you to do things you don't want to do, or but you're doing it for the paycheck. So
Mhm.
it definitely opened my eyes to really seeing how kind of risky I was being as far as one stream of income, kind of relying on this it's the pension is great. These benefits that I get from my job is great, but it's kind of like, you have to do so many years to get a certain amount of benefits. And I started thinking and going down this rabbit hole of, kind of entrepreneurship or even investing and getting multiple streams of income so that you're not relying on this W-2 or this one source of income anymore.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's for sure. So, and then you started diving into real estate?
Yeah, so kind of funny thing is my uncle who was in real estate years ago, when we were younger, he gave us all, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And, I probably read it, 20 years ago, and it just never made a lot of sense to me. Like I just thought, like, because the book talks a lot about how, your home is not really an asset because it doesn't put money into your pockets as kind of a liability. And I always, growing up, I was always led to believe that, your home is an asset, it's a great investment. And so for me, reading that book, it really didn't make sense to me at the time. And then fast forward to kind of when, the lockdown is shut down, then talking about, one source of income, it really started made me realizing like how my home has kind of become a liability.
Yeah.
So me and my son's mom, we also split up during that shutdowns and everything. So I have this home now who's too big, which is too big for just myself and whenever my son's with me. But it's like money is always coming out of my pocket every month to live here. And, I gotta upkeep it. There's maintenance. I gotta do the yard. And it really just started making sense to me. Like, yeah, this home, it's yes, it's appreciated, yes, value, but it's not any money in my pocket monthly. And that's kind of what put me down the whole real estate path.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not really cash flowing. It's just taking cash
Yeah.
out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then how'd you get in? I know you mentioned like, the separation happened and everything, and then you're left with this house that's a little too big for yourself, right? So what happened from there?
Yeah, so for me, one of my friends was investing remotely because, Hawaii's it's a great appreciation market, but it's very hard to get entry into the real estate market because of the prices. So my friend was investing in Pittsburgh, and he would always tell me, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. You should look into it." And I had all this time on my hand now. I had equity in my property, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look into it. And the more I started, listening to podcasts, reading books, doing research, it just started to click for me. Just like this is how the wealthy become wealthy, and this is the path to like financial freedom. And kind of what was supposed to be a slow process, kind of I was going to just get one and kind of see how it went.
Hmm.
Kind of snowballed, and I kind of I did get 14 properties fairly quickly,
Wow.
but I also tell people that that was probably one of my biggest mistakes in scaling that quick. I feel like I always tell people my biggest mistake is scaling too quickly and not preparing well with reserves. So those are two things that I kind of feel I made a mistake, but you learn from it.
Yeah. Why would you say that?
Well, definitely I always tell people like maybe the first, three or four kind of tricked me where thinking that real estate is easy in the beginning. Like, oh, I
Hmm.
got these properties, I have a tenant, I get a tenant, and yeah, there's nothing, no issues. But as I started scaling, I started to realize that it takes time for properties to sometimes stabilize, whether it be finding a good tenant, whether there's maintenance issues or expenses that come up, and trying to maybe stabilize, 10 to 14 properties at one time probably wasn't the best course of action.
Hmm.
So, I found a lot of great deals because I also purchased quite a bit during the winter time, but I didn't really realize like it would be harder to find tenants to be placed in those properties also during that time. So even though I found great deals, I was probably it took me a lot longer to find tenants for a lot of these properties.
Yeah. It sounds like there wasn't too much preparation for those.
Yeah, like I said, that the first three or four, like you just this is like I find a great deal, I find a good property. I had a good property manager in place, and I just thought like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is fairly easy, so let's do it.
Hmm.
And like I said, it just it does take time to stabilize properties, and so I wasn't buying what you would say turnkey properties where
Okay.
they weren't completely renovated. So I can see the benefits of some people wanting to start with turnkey properties because you probably limit your exposure to like unexpected expenses in the beginning because these properties should be kind of fully renovated.
Hmm.
Whereas mine were like rent ready, they weren't like they weren't run down or they weren't, like D class neighborhood property. They were just properties that you could place a tenant, maybe some minor cosmetic work if you really want to get top dollar. But at the same time, things break, there's expenses that come up, so I didn't prepare well for that. And like I said, that's on me, but that's always like my advice to people is definitely make sure you do a better job of planning for reserves or give yourself time to let the properties kind of stabilize because sometimes you think you get a good tenant sometimes and then
Yeah.
maybe things don't work out and now you're dealing with evicting a certain tenant. So like I said, just trying to get roughly 10 properties kind of running smoothly at one time probably wasn't the best idea.
Hmm. I mean, I feel like you might have learned a whole lot, even just through all these mistakes and things like that, instead of just not taking the action, right? So do you think that you regret anything, or are you still like thankful for just taking the leap?
Yeah, I'm just thankful for taking the leap. I mean, I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people is just taking that first step. And I'm glad I did it. You hear so many people's stories. I don't think I've really heard anybody say, "Yeah, I hit a home run on my first deal," or "I made 100,000 on my first flip," or most people say, "Oh, I lost money on my first flip," or if things didn't work out as planned, or I had to hold it longer. But they're glad they got started, and I think that's the number one
Yeah.
thing is this whole time, you're constantly learning. Like, for example, the market has changed so much from when I started till today. So the market is always changing. So even if you do hit a home run maybe on your first deal, now the market has shifted completely around and now you're adjusting to a new market. So yeah, I'm glad I got started. I've learned so much, and that's kind of what my story is. I'm just trying to put out my story and hopefully
Hmm.
help others like not make these mistakes or just realize that real estate is pretty forgiving if you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. So as far as like one of the most important things that you've learned from this whole thing, what do you think that would be?
So, besides the reserves and, maybe, not scaling too quickly, I would say the biggest thing for me is just building a good team and relationship. So I think a lot of people get caught up in trying to find like the best market out there to invest in, especially if they're going to do it remotely or out of state. They're always, looking up on bigger pockets or different blogs and
Yeah.
what is the best cash flowing market, and then they see these top 5 or top 10, and then these, so now they're looking at 5, 10 different markets trying to analyze them. And I think that's kind of what kind of holds people up, because now they don't know which one to pick. And so for
Hmm.
me, I think it's either you find a market where maybe you have connections to, like maybe you have relatives that live in that market, or maybe you have friends that went to school with that live there, or maybe you went to college in that area. Or the other option, I think, is also just finding a network and finding people that invest in that market. So like for me, my friend was already investing there, and he's gonna hate it because I always say this, but he also made tons of mistakes in the beginning. So that's kind of why I felt comfortable jumping in, because I knew that he made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. So I felt like, okay, he made mistakes. He's, hopefully has kind of ironed it out, and it made me feel a little more comfortable jumping on his system. And, Pittsburgh is probably not the greatest market, but it's a good market. And, every market can work, right? But you just got,
Hmm.
to me, it's more important finding like a team or finding some sort of connection to that market.
Okay. No, yeah, I definitely agree. And especially with him already having systems in place or having done it, you could actually leverage his knowledge into just getting a little jump start as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it definitely helps. And we still throw things off each other, trying to get ideas, or how's this area or how's that property working out for you? And another thing for me, I kind of feel like, trying to build something with other investors in a certain market helps, because now, like for example, I've helped other people start in Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
And so now, we have like multiple investors under this one property management company. So kind of, when we call, they're very responsive to our needs. So I feel like, if you only have one property and you try to call them, they might be like, okay, we'll get to that person when we kind of have time, or whatnot. But right now, since we probably have, I would say maybe about 35 properties in total, that, when we call, they're a little more responsive, realizing that we're kind of a decent sized portfolio for them. And, hopefully they're going to, give us the best service possible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I mean, how is everything going as far as like doing business like so far away, especially with your friend, just everything's over the phone and just remote, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is maybe the time difference. As far as, being virtual or not,
Hmm.
I haven't seen my properties yet. I haven't even been to Pittsburgh, but I think the hardest thing is maybe the time difference. So, even like when we were purchasing the properties, there were times when, maybe at the last minute they needed a certain document for the closing. And it was like, they might email you, early in the morning for them, and then by the time you wake up in Hawaii, which is roughly 6 hours behind,
Hmm.
now you figure out what they're requesting, and now by the time you get it and you try to email it back to them or send it back to them, their day is almost done, or their day's done, and they may not get it, and now you're always chasing in a sense. So I
Yeah.
think I think that, to me, is the time difference. But I'm an early riser, so it doesn't really affect me. I mean, but for a lot of people, I think that's what it's going to be, is just the time difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even my friend that lives in Hawaii, he has to wake up super early just to, be on the same page as us. He usually wakes up at like 2, 3 in the morning. So
Yeah,
it's like crazy.
that that's my routine too. I wake up early, I work out, And that's just my thing. And even people that stocks, if they want to do stocks and do options and trading, the market opens early, right? So they got to
Hmm.
get up early, and that's one of the things too. Is just that the time difference. I think to me is kind of the biggest challenge.
Wow. No, that's awesome. At least you're working right through it, and it doesn't seem to be a hurdle for you. I'm sure, like, especially with you being a firefighter, you were probably just used to just being like an early bird, right?
That's just kind of always been part of my routine. Like it was just
Okay.
always um for me, like I was very big into like fitness and working out, and that was I would always get up early to work out. It's kind of like my time to think and be alone and whatnot. But it also I like to get it out of the way, because if I don't do it, or if I skip it, or if I have to do it in the afternoon or later, I always feel like it's on my mind, and I'm always chasing to make sure I get it done. So for me, it's just become a habit or routine to wake up, work out. Now I got it out of the way. And before I used to do like 2 a day workouts and things. And as long as I got one in, it was like that relief that I got my main workout in. If I skip, or if I don't get to my second one, then that's fine, because I got my main one in. So that's just kind of where it all started from.
Yeah. And I bet if you miss out, then it kind of throws off your entire routine, right?
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but I probably get grouchy, and I probably get a little irritable. Where like I said, it's just kind of just on my mind. Okay, I skipped, or I didn't get it done. Now, when am I going to fit it in today, or how am I going to get it done? And it just kind of weighs on you for the rest of the day. So that's kind of why I like getting up earlier to make sure that it's something that I can get done, and I have it done it's like a check mark for the day, right? You accomplished something.
I
Yeah.
hear you. Yeah, same here with me. Um, but yeah, tell us completely off topic again, but tell us a little bit about your first deal that you've done. I know it's 14 by now, right?
Yeah, it's 14. So my first deal was definitely just a base hit. I found was it a 4 bedroom? I think it was a 4 bedroom, but it was a one bath. But yeah,
Okay.
it was a base hit. But just from that transaction alone, like I learned so much, because so I had a lot of equity in my properties, and a lot of people that live in Hawaii know that we have very favorable HELOC products out here. So anyway, that's what a lot of people do. They use HELOCs, whether it's they want to focus on paying off their mortgage quicker, or they use it to invest or renovate. But we do have these awesome HELOC products out here. But so I had equity, and my plan was, the market was very crazy hot. This was in early 2021, I believe. So my thought, you read all the books and podcasts. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a cash offer to make like my offer stand out. And then the plan was I was gonna, get it with cash, and then do the whole cash out refinance, pull out my cash out of the property, and then continue to invest. So that's kind of how it happened. But then as I also did the cash out, I found out about different type of lenders that offer, it's called like delayed purchase financing. So basically, if you purchase a property all cash,
Hmm.
you don't have to wait that seasoning period to do a cash out refi.
Okay.
So traditionally it was like a 6 month. I believe now it's 12 months. But originally, to do a cash out refi, you'd have to wait 6 months. But because I paid all cash, I found out about delayed purchase financing. You can basically start the process to refinance right there. And also during this time, I still had equity that I was using, and I started getting in the process of looking for another property. And that one I was going to do, or I did in my name, so through traditional financing. And then I started to look at it, and I'm like, how do people scale after this when their debt to income? So like, being in Hawaii, our property values are so high that my debt to income is already on the high side. And now I'm adding more loans under my name. So then it sent me down this whole other rabbit hole of looking at different type of lending options out there. So that's where I came across like the asset based lending or the debt service coverage ratio lending, and so that opened up a whole new world to me where, man, I always thought you just go to a bank, you know, get finance, you show them your paperwork, and that's how you get a loan. I didn't realize like there is this whole lending world out there that a lot of people probably aren't aware of, as far as there's so many different type of lending products that are available, like interest only, 40-year amortized, or 40-year interest, or 10-year interest only, 30-year amortized. But there's different products out there, and that's another thing for like investors wanting to get started. You have to kind of start networking and just talking to people because there's so much learning to be done.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And you just mentioned just some of the few different, um lending options out there. What are some of the ones that you used on a few of your homes that might not be the traditional route? And where did you go to get those?
Yeah, so for me, I strictly just use the DSCR type of loans now. So basically, as long as the rent covers the debt on the property, you'd be qualified. So your credit score does matter. It might affect the interest rate, but other than that, you don't have any income verification. There's no W-2. There's no tax returns. It's basically based off of the asset. So when I was purchasing, the ratio might have been, maybe you could probably get down to like 0.85 to, and to that, as long as the rent, so the rent probably could even be a slightly below the debt. But now with how the economy is, you're probably looking at closer to, for sure it have to be one, but you're probably looking higher than that as far as the amount of rent covering the debt coverage. But so I kind of reached out to a whole bunch of different lenders, and I settled on one. He was with Lending One before, but he's since has left them. But it it's also great to build relationship with different lenders. So, for example, a lot of times you may have to provide like a pre-approval letter or letter of intent. So a lot of times, if you work with a certain lender and he already knows kind of your history, your background, kind of your financial setup, then he was kind of willing to, here, this is the generic letter. As long as the property is under a certain value, you can use this, just, you can change the property address and whatnot, and you can use that to submit to the sellers. So it comes in handy building relationships also, because it also speeds up the process. Like, I'm not having to email back and forth, like, hey, I want a letter of intent for this property, this address, and then he got to get it back to me. And so it definitely helped out as far as building relationships with this lender. And you also can kind of make them, I wouldn't say fight for your business, but it also can keep the rates competitive.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're using the DSCR loans, right? Um, is what kind of down payments are you looking at as far as you going in with the DSCRs?
So in the beginning, you're probably going to be looking at maybe 25 to 30%, for your down payment. As I built up a relationship with them, or they kind of seen that I had properties, I have, their cash flows, then, they're willing to go down to 20% down payment. So now, strictly everything is 20%. I did have one that I thought I was going to be able to do 20%, but I want to say I had to do 25%, just because when they did like their appraisal, it came up in a high crime area, I guess, or the crime statistics didn't meet the rating. So as far as the down payment had to kick up a little bit. But
Mm.
other than that, yeah, typically, I'm looking at 20% right now.
Well, okay, not bad. So at least you're leveraging a lot of your money, right? Which is fantastic. As far as you having 14 properties now, is it really affecting your DTI?
Not from the rentals.
Hmm.
So, I mean, because everything is not in my name. So they're all under LLCs. So
Mhm.
none of that debt shows up in my name. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to use LLCs, is so that that debt doesn't show up under my personal credit anymore. So it's
Okay.
not going to, so I can keep scaling. Another thing I would say is another mistake I probably made and is I got very caught up in the asset protection structure and kind of everyone worried about getting sued and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I put each of my properties in their own LLCs, and there's people that do that. But now that I look back on it, to me, I think it's overkill, and it's I'm paying extra fees every year. And if I was to do it again, I would say I would probably put maybe 4 to 5 properties per LLC, like maybe $1 million worth of value per LLC, if you are concerned about the asset protection side. But as far as LLCs, same thing. I don't want that to stop people from getting started. Like, to me, a
Yeah.
lot of people get caught up in that, and then they start trying to figure out the whole asset protection and LLC structure. And don't get caught up in that. Just get started. You can always figure it out later. Because a lot of the issues too with the LLC structure is you're kind of supposed to be a business, so you're supposed to
Mhm.
have a separate business account. But then at the same time, when you're starting off, you don't really have a business history. So you don't have like this business funding where maybe expenses come up. You're supposed to be paying it out of the business, but you don't have the money yet. And so you're using your personal account. So you're already commingling funds.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you're using it for asset protection, but at the same time, you're not really well set up to benefit from
Do
the
that
asset
yet.
protection. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I know some people say, hey, don't even mix your personal name with the LLC and all that. And then I've heard a lot of people say, hey, if they really want to find you, they're gonna find you. Right. So I mean, what's
Yeah,
your thought on that?
definitely. For me, if you want to do it more for keeping the debt out of your name, I think that's super advantageous. But if you're trying to do it strictly because of the asset protection, yeah, I'm kind of like you, where if they have a good lawyer, they're gonna be able to pierce the veil, and like I said, I've already commingled funds, so it would be easy for someone to be like, hey, how come you paid this bill using this account when this business is supposed to be paying for, so I think it's more of a kind of prevent people maybe from trying to sue you, in the sense that it's more work maybe for the attorney or lawyer to pierce that veil. So if someone just didn't want to deal with the hassle of trying to figure out who owns this, then maybe. But like you just mentioned, if someone really wanted to, they could figure out really who this asset belonged to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic though. You really dove really deep into this and learned so much. Is there something that you would want to know if you were to do it all over again? Um, and how would you have done it different? I know you said that you would probably, possibly take a lot more time accumulating everything and then storing up some residual wealth right to the side. Um, just for like emergency cases and vacancy, capex, maintenance, things like that. But what would you do if you had to start all over again, like right now, and you were starting off with little capital for anyone that's actually watching out there that wants to get started?
I would say start young. I would say start early, like start as early as you can, especially before you have a family, before you have kids, before you get married. Excuse me, sorry. But if you can house hack, I would definitely try to get into real estate through house hacking. Like you're saying, if maybe you don't have a large amount of capital, the benefit of house hacking is, because you're going to owner occupy it, you can probably put the least amount of down payment down. And then now you can use the other, rent, expected rent from the other units to count towards your income also. Usually about 75% of it can be counted towards your income as far as qualifying for the mortgage.
Mhm.
But to me, it's the easiest way to get in with a low down payment. And then you also reduce probably your biggest expense, which is your living expense. So to me, that's the best way to get in. You get an asset, you get into real estate, then you also learn the financing side. You learn how to kind of be a manager now because you got to manage the other tenants that are going to be in the other units. And it just, to me, that's a great way to get started, get your feet wet. And then they said, if you reduce your biggest expense, now that's more money you can save and put away to invest on the road.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would definitely do that as well. I would
It
say
definitely gets harder. Oh, sorry, it definitely gets harder once you have kids or a family.
cut up. Hello?
Oh, there we go. I'm back. Are you back? I don't see
Yeah,
you.
yeah. That was weird.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. What was I
I'm sorry.
saying?
You completely cut out.
Shoot, what was I talking about?
You
Yeah,
said
but just
with the kids, family, right? It starts
yeah,
getting super hectic.
hectic, but also it's a lot of times you see that one or the other is not on board with house hacking or having roommates or sharing walls with someone else. So if you can start young before you get married or have kids, I think that's probably one of the best ways to get started.
Yeah, no, definitely. I super agree with what you're saying there. Some people just don't like living with others. That's how I am. But yeah, I mean, you also have to be agreed upon being able to just live with others and also your spouse and children. Like that would just make a huge hurdle because maybe they're not willing to do what you're willing to do and go as far as you're willing to go as far, right? To
Yeah.
get and achieve your goals. But yeah, as far as your income goes, is it all just coming from you being a firefighter, or is there also other side hobbies and other hustles that you do on the side?
Yeah, so I just got my real estate license last year. So
Really?
so that's kind of still a work in progress. I mean, my vision was I wanted to do more property management, but every like realtor that I would talk with, they're like, "Oh, you don't want to do property management? No, no, And but in my head, I was thinking of it just like kind of owning rentals. In the beginning, maybe you got to take manage properties that, maybe are less desirable, but you got to do it just to get your feet wet, build up a clientele. But after a certain point, you can maybe pick and choose what properties you want to manage. But
Mhm.
it's kind of same thing. You get a good property and you get a good tenant, that probably takes away, a lot of the headaches. So I think the property, and so finally slowly starting to get some properties to manage under my belt with me and one of my buddies who's in the same brokerage with me.
Okay.
So we're going to start doing some of that. Some of it is for short-term rentals. So Hawaii's kind of regulated. So we're going to have a few nightly short-term rentals and a few 30-day short-term rentals. But yeah, so I'm just going to do that, the fire, and then just trying to build a social media brand, YouTube, Instagram, and just trying to help others. So when I got my license, I also
Hmm.
realized kind of that the market was shifting. The market was going to slow down tremendously. So
Hmm.
that kind of was why I wanted to get started, because I figured, all right, the market's going to slow down. I hate to say it, but maybe there's going to be a lot of agents that are going to not be renewing their license. And
Yeah.
since I have a stable W-2, it's not like I'm
Dependent.
needing to make, yeah,
Yeah.
but my vision was to build my brand so that when the market does change, now hopefully like I'm top of mind, or people who have seen me on social media or seen my story and kind of just say, I'm gonna reach out to this guy. So that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. And honestly, it's fantastic that you're going this route even with the property management, I respect it a lot because now not only are you getting in, but you're also learning so much more that you could take away for your own rentals now, right? And now you know what to look out for, and also you could just hire better property management for your own rentals for the ones out in PA, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but that's kind of my next. So I mean, I have a great property manager, great relationship, but kind of what you just mentioned, you know, part of me wants to try and self-manage my properties from a distance. Part of it is to build kind of a proof of concept so I can tell other people like, oh yeah, you could do it, or this is the hiccup, or this is the obstacles you're gonna have to work with. But like right now, I really can't say if it can be done because I've never really tried it.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me wants to, and there's a lot of platforms out there now that you can use to kind of make it more like a hybrid model where you're self-managing, but yet at the same time, there's systems in place to where it kind of makes it like you almost have a property manager. So I'm still on the fence about taking that plunge, but I might do a few, I
Mm-hmm.
want just kind of get started and get this like same thing, kind of get it stabilized, get the systems in place, and then maybe slowly kind of pull a little more here and there.
No, yeah, that's fantastic. That would be actually awesome to especially make content about it. I know you have your YouTube and everything going on. If you could document that, that would be amazing. And then, people could learn a lot. You're doing something relatively new, right? Um,
Yeah. I mean, because I
so
would save a lot of money if I did it on my own. I mean, I don't know how much more headaches I'd have, but as far as cash flow wise, I'd be saving a lot. And, because a lot of people, like, for example, we all, maybe the standard is, 10% property management fee. So the 10% comes off of the gross rent. But
mhm,
if you really think about it, that 10% out of your cash flow might be like 40% of your net profit actually. So
exactly.
if
Yeah.
you look at it, yeah. So if you look at it that way, I mean, your property manager is making a good amount of money off of your monthly income. And so yeah, I'm still on the fence. I'll probably try a few just to dabble in it and see how much more messages I might have to deal with a day, or how much headaches I have.
Yeah, I'm just super impressed about how you're able to manage between the whole W-2 that you have right now and between everything else that you got going on. Because I know even just with content creation myself, having to even, script, edit, and then post 3, 4 times, as far as reels go, it is time consuming. So you do that, probably look for properties, and work at the same time. It's like that's I respect that a lot. That's how do you even make that happen?
Well, I do a lot at the fire station when we have downtime. So I mean, I do try to get as much done while I'm there also. But you kind of gotta pick and choose your battles. I know there's a lot of like agents or realtors that are probably big on cold calling and whatnot. And for me, uh, I wouldn't say I have to pick and choose like social media, kind of, or cold calling. And
Hmm.
to me, social media, I have a bigger reach, and it's something that's gonna always be out there. So if someone looks up my name or looks up, Remax or whatnot, then my name and my content will be out there. Whereas I can cold call someone, and if they don't pick up or if I don't talk to them, then it's kind of this done deal, right? I haven't really
Yeah,
connected with them. So that's kind of I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but some people might prefer cold calling and they might be better at it, and that's their strength. So go with that. But for me, the way I see it is I have a better reach with social media, and as far as being top of mind, I think for me that's going to be the way to reach out to more individuals.
definitely. And I agree. And at least this way you're cloning yourself for life. Like you're always going to be out there, right? So even 10, 15 years later down the line, as long as you don't delete it, you're still up there, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
free marketing.
yeah,
So I love
exactly.
that for sure. I do a little bit of both because it can't hurt. But yeah, I love the social media hustle, and you just started what, 6 months ago? Or I was taking a look at your stuff.
Yeah, probably about 6, 7 months ago. I mean, don't go looking at the first, they're horrible, but I mean, you got to get started.
Hey,
You
hey,
know,
I
you
keep
got,
mine up too, just
yeah,
to know where you come from, right?
yeah. But, I never thought I would enjoy it this much, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice when people reach out or just communicating with other people in this industry, and I love it. You meet a lot of cool people and a lot of cool stories, and the one thing, I don't know if you came across this too, but for me, like in the beginning, a lot of my videos on my YouTube channel were more kind of maybe informative or trying to talk about a specific subject matter. But then I started realizing, like, man, there's not a lot of stuff to talk about after a while. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of hard to be the star of your own show every time. So that's kind of where the whole trying to interview other people and bring people on my channel kind of came into play. So it's kind of just talking back and forth like we're doing right now. And
exactly.
yeah,
It's fantastic. You could just cut up into clips, and now you're
yeah,
promoting this video for people to come and watch this one.
yeah.
So it's fantastic. But yeah, it gets super hard, as especially like over the 100 video range, and then you're like, what do I talk about now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you set aside time just to think about, creating content too, or like what you're gonna do?
I try to, but they seem to just come in waves. Like, I mean, I try to sit there and honestly, I mean, we're all probably just copying each other here and there to some extent. And
100%.
yeah, and I just see some, oh, that's a pretty interesting one. And you kind of make a little twist on it to kind of be your own. But I mean, yeah, no, no, I mean, I'm sure there is people that are coming out with very unique messages or things, but for the most part, everyone just has kind of, just kind of copycat system and kind of just, making a little twist to it. But
Why reinvent the wheel when it's already
yeah,
working, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I get my best ideas at the gym. I don't know if that relates to you as well, or when I'm reading something.
Yeah, I mean that's probably my quiet time. So that's definitely the time where I probably uh get a lot of thoughts coming to my head, and helps with the social media side or what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna post, or what's my next strategy here. But
Yeah, yeah. Oh, fantastic. So where can everybody find you?
so I would say Instagram, YouTube would probably be the two easiest place. Oh, Twitter. I actually enjoy Twitter. Not everyone's on Twitter, but I actually enjoy Twitter. Yeah, so financial firefighter. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is different. I mean, I like it, but I always tell people I just feel like I'm underdressed every time I'm there. Everyone's, these business professionals in suits, and then TikTok, yeah, I don't know. TikTok, I think I'm too old for. I can't figure that stuff out. It's a challenging one, but Instagram, YouTube, financial firefighter, and Remax Honolulu if you're looking to buy or sell your home in Hawaii.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna leave everything in the description so everyone can find you. And yeah, it was a pleasure having you on here. It was nice conversation and amazing learning about Hawaii and investing out of state.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for reaching out.
Of course, of course.